It's Aneesa the shade. They was doubting by my calling, now they peeping away.
Okay, so on today's episode of Pretty and Profitable, I'm going to dive into the principle because, we're going to be introducing all of the profitable Proverbs principles. So today we're going to talk about plan and prepares. And I wanted to introduce you, first of all, to an amazing woman. She's my mentor. And I think that she embodies these two principles. So I want to introduce you to Dana Christian. Hey, Dana.
Hey, Aneesa. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. I was so happy to bring Dana, you guys, because I always talk about mentors and how important they have been. But Dana has been, I would say, a mentor turned friend. Now, all mentors don't become friends, right? But she has been a huge asset to my life in general. So I wanted to highlight her excellence. So I consider her a commander in her space. She is a woman that is a driving force in the investment, real estate investment, and so many other things. She's a grandmother, she's a mom, she's a wife. But I want her to to talk about herself. So go ahead.
Hey, Aneesa. I like to consider myself a real estate investor. Well, now developer because
Yes.
I'm developing my first property.
Yes.
So we breaking ground tomorrow on that. So I'm
Nice.
excited about that.
Okay.
But I'm Dana. Like, I don't like titles.
Yeah.
I'm just Dana from the hood, as they
Yes.
say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but yeah, you say you just Dana, right? But I really feel like sometimes people don't even understand the depth of what you bring to people. And it's really hard, I would say, to find. So I feel very fortunate to have a mentor that was authentic, that was transparent. It's really hard to find that in these spaces now. And I remember, actually, I'm gonna talk about let me tell you how you have to value people, because I remember I had booked like a one-on-one or something just because I was like, I just want you to look at my credit and tell me. And Dana was like, well, I mean, you got to do this and that. Why don't you just join the mentorship? And I was like, to pay her no $5,000, like, And I remember it was something that I saw online. I think you were live with someone and you were talking about your story. You were talking about being a mom of being a teenage mom and having to buy one size diapers, like have one was too big for one and one was too small. Like, you were just telling the story. And from there, I realized and I connected with Dana's story. And I always tell you that people really need to know who you are and know where you came from, the tenacity, your drive, because that was the reason why I gave you my money. I was like, okay, I need a woman like this, someone that, and someone that's been through a lot. And I feel like people that have definitely had a hard life at the beginning and have jumped into entrepreneurship. You jumped into entrepreneurship while you were still working.
Correct.
And I think that makes a better entrepreneur because you're getting like the systems from work and you're like leveraging your job and you're starting entrepreneurship. So to have someone that has both sides, didn't really have, anything given to her, I think that makes an awesome mentor because she's extremely strategic. So that is, so I just wanted to say that. But
something that I didn't realize that I was an entrepreneur for years later, right? I just always looked at it as I needed extra money. I needed extra money, and I tried that, working 3 jobs, working 12 hours, and it really took away from me.
Yeah.
So I figure if I create a business, invest in real estate, it's not going to take a lot of my time. So I never considered myself an entrepreneur till like probably 16 years later.
That's crazy because Dana was doing taxes while she was working at the post office.
Yes, and I never considered myself an entrepreneur. I just needed extra money.
Right. Yeah, but I think that like you, and oh my God, can you please tell the story? I didn't even get to the questions yet, but I remember when we were in Detroit, you were talking about when you bought when Tony bought you that Mercedes.
Oh yeah. So so you look, entrepreneur back then.
Right.
So I was working at the post office, which was crazy. I was working 12 hours, 7 days a week, right?
Yes.
And my husband used to sell DVDs. So I would bring them to work, CDs.
Yeah.
I would bring them to work and people would buy them. And on a pay week, $1,000 easy. An off-pay week, probably about $400.
Okay.
So, and I used to drive a Geo Prism because, like, all I need the car, get me
had a
back
Geo
and forth,
Prism.
get me back and forth to work. So my husband hated the car. So he was
Yeah.
like, well, what car do you want? So I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm fine. So
Yeah.
I saw the Mercedes ML3, I think it was 320, something like that
Yeah.
back then. So I was like, I saw that, I like that car.
Yeah.
So of course he went, found me one. I got the funding, right, through my credit union. But he brought the vehicle to the job when I got off of work with a big red bow on it. So when you was getting off of work, it was this big elevator. So the whole park, the whole building saw the car. The next week I come with my little DVDs. Nobody bought. Maybe we sold maybe $20. So people was like, I know I bought an armrest in that vehicle.
Right.
And I'm like, first of all, the payment is only $220.
Right, because I have
every
good
2
credit.
weeks. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're seriously
Yes.
thinking that. And the crazy thing was, even though I was making all that money from selling DVDs, I was giving it straight to my husband.
Yeah.
Because that was his hustle. But people, they don't like to think that they help you. The money that they invested, right, that it helped you. They don't like that. And really, they bought a DVD.
Value, right.
And I always tell people, even with the mentorship, right? Like, you're not investing in me, you're investing in yourself.
Yes.
Right? So
it's hard for people to see that.
But
one of the things that made me, I remember, because my great grandmother bought a duplex by USC. She's passed away now, but she passed it down to my grandmother. And it's worth like $1 million or whatever. But I remember them talking about one time to never show up to your property in your real car. And I didn't understand. Like, I'm like, once you make money, you want to be, but there is like a reason for that.
Yeah.
Like, let me just sidebar. Let me just sidebar Atlanta. Let me tell you, I heard about Atlanta. I'm from LA. But when I got a rental car, I was like, I'm not about to get no nice car. I'm in a Corolla driving around in Atlanta right now. Because I don't want nobody busting out my windows. But it's like a real thing. Like, it's something you have to think about. I think that when you really truly are focused on like just building wealth, your mind shifts from like showing to just diving deeper.
Yeah.
You know, diving deeper into like creating more currency, more flow of your money rather than just showing it.
Yeah. But you know what I think a problem is in our community? People associate wealth with things.
With material things.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have on a nice watch or have a designer pocketbook or even drive a nice car, they assume that you're not making money. So if you plan on being an educator, then sometimes you have to show that stuff, which is so sad, because I realize the type of people that's going to come is just coming for stuff, not really for the knowledge.
Exactly. And those people don't even become who they need to become.
Yeah.
They just want to get, and that was my thing with credit. I started to feel like, man, I'm getting people access to this money, but they're not doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I used to tell my clients, I don't have return clients. So I'm going to teach you what you need to do to get your credit together, but you need to take this money and invest it, not, go buy a car, go buy, So, yeah, but my first mentor was a Jewish man, and he had holes in his shoes and holes in his jeans. I really think that it's our community because, and this is another thing too. I still have my great grandfather who's 98. He was a wealthy man. He was a race car driver. And I look at the fact that as Black people, we've only had 100 years of ownership of our bodies, of property. Like, so to be in our community where we feel like we have to show when we really know our history, we know where we all came from.
Yeah.
So why is it that we have to go buy the new Range Rover for you to believe that I know what I'm talking about? Even though I understand it, but most communities are not measuring themselves by material things. They're literally like, okay, Dana does credit. Okay, Aneesa does this. Okay, go to Dana first and then go, because they realize if I support Dana, I'm supporting her family. If I support Aneesa, but everyone's getting some form of value.
But we wasn't taught that.
No.
Like, it's the slave mentality.
Man.
Right? You don't want somebody having more than you. And we associate wealth, like I said, with things.
Mm-hmm.
And, just the other week, I was back in New York in the projects where I
Yeah,
grew up
yeah.
at. And, just looking at, my friends I grew up with, everybody having all this designer stuff. I'm like, this is crazy, and rats is outside. But I was that person too, living in the projects with a mink coat on.
Kima
You know?
said, right.
So I was that
Yeah.
person too. When now I don't care that much about, clothes and
nice
stuff.
things.
So yeah, I like nice
Yeah,
things. I
of
like a
course.
nice pocketbook,
Yes.
nice pair of shoes.
She just got some stuff in Paris, y'all. She went
So I
shopping
like
in
that stuff.
Paris.
But on the day-to-day, I'm fine with a pair of spandex from
Yes.
Walmart, Old Navy, a t-shirt. I'm fine,
Yeah.
with that stuff. So I learned, only because I also changed my environment, right? So I left from out of the projects, right? Moved to Atlanta and bought a house,
Yeah.
right? And just start seeing life different, and I won't really say it's too much about the people I hung around. I just wanted more, right? And I knew to get more, some things I had to cut back.
Yeah.
And some of those things cutting back was doing all that spending. Like I said, living ghetto fabulous, right? Just, spending a bunch of money on stuff that I didn't need. And really start focusing on, what do I want for my kids? What do I want to leave behind for my kids?
Yes.
Right? So that was my main focus, to stop splurging. Right? But when I went back to the projects, I saw that they didn't care about, building wealth. They didn't care about, buying houses or having passive income. They was just concerned with going to work and retiring for 30 years and hoping to have a pension. And keyword, hope to have a pension and Social Security. So, and I understand that you can't force your belief on someone else because it's draining, right? So I even had a friend, I asked her to make me some pig feet when I was up there. And she had a good city job. She started working 6 months ago, whatever. She said, okay, let me go upstairs and get my food stamp card. I was like, how you still getting food stamps? She was like, girl, I ain't working a whole bunch of hours so that I can keep it. And I was like, the mindset, but I didn't have the energy
to even
I didn't
explain it.
I didn't have the energy to explain that. And also, like you said, I do taxes. And I had one of my ex co-workers come to get his taxes done this year. And he had just retired. And automatically, he had $300,000 in his retirement. We call it thrift savings. They taxed him $100,000 right away. After I did his taxes, right, he had owed another 100 between state and federal. So I didn't want to tell him. So I was like, are you sitting down? I was about to call his name, can't call his name. I said, are you sitting down? He said, yes. So when I told him, he was like, oh, I'm fine. I've ever just paid him their money. So now he had $300,000 saved out of his pension. He only actually got $100,000. His comment was, long as I'm able to get a haircut once a month and go to Cracker Barrel 3 times, I'm happy. After working a job for 35 years,
and they just
again, I didn't have the energy.
Yeah.
Because he was like, I see what you're doing on credit, but I'm debt free. I said, okay, that's good.
Debt free is still zero.
You know, because you got to use the debt to create cash flow. So that's the missing part that we wasn't taught.
Yeah, we're not taught that. And I talk about that in the book, where we have to go from being a consumer to an investor. And that's what I think that you have probably always had. You just didn't know. You saw something and you like, how can I flip this? How can I make more of this? Even with you giving more of your time to the post office, you like, okay, while I'm here, let me sell this, right? And I think people frown upon that because when we're around people that are just doing enough, they say that, oh, that's doing too much.
Yes. And that's so true, because even when I worked at the post office and I had a tax business, my husband sell cars, so we have a dealership, started investing in real estate, I wouldn't tell anyone.
You can't.
Because I was ashamed of being successful.
You can't.
In this, like people just don't understand, oh, you doing too much? Why you just can't be happy with this good government job? And that same good government job, when I got hurt on it, didn't pay me for 5 months.
So you had to figure it out.
So, and good thing I had already, kind of figured it out prior to, right? And I always, tell people you need to be prepared for the unexpected, because you never know what might happen. And one source of income is definitely too close to none.
Let me tell you, right now in LA, they have nurses are striking, the actors are striking. And I was driving up. So there's a hotel that's right next to my office. And I was driving up with my kids, and all the hotel employees are striking. So I asked my kids, I said, what do you guys think about that? because it was like, pay us more. It said like a 2-bedroom in LA is $3,500 and they're only paying us $18 an hour, something like that, right? And I had my daughters read the sign. I said, what do you guys, before I told them, I said, what do you guys think about that? They said, why are they asking them for more money? Just go make more money.
Yes.
Like the same people that'll say they're comfortable will picket, strike for an extra dollar at work. Not realizing that the solution is not you making more money, it's leveraging what you have now.
Yeah. But it's stuff that wasn't taught. You know, you think about it, it was always taught, go to school, go to college, get a good job, and that's it. Nobody ever taught about starting the businesses, right? And then when you saw people own businesses or stores, that was the only businesses we really saw.
Right.
It wasn't, nobody looked like us.
Right.
So
That's
we
true.
didn't think that it was possible because it wasn't taught, right? And then you might find one person in the community to make it out, right? And it might be because you thinking they went to college and made it out, right? And, you know, think about like me and Yandy Smith come from the same, you know, projects. And she went to college to become successful. I didn't go to college to become successful. So you can make it out, you know, without going to college, right? But it still comes with education.
Yes.
Right? So you still have to find some type of education.
Exposure. Right.
To, you know, to be successful. You know, so many times we blame our lack of being success on what we don't have. And, you know, I'm proof, like high school dropout, you know, some words I can't pronounce and I'm fine with it. You know, but I know how to count some money, make some money.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But it's like we always look at what we don't have.
Yes.
Instead of trying to work with what we have.
Yes.
And I think a lot of us don't believe enough in ourselves. You know, and I just think about, you know, like just growing up being a teenage mom and my kid's father was on drugs. We lived in the same projects and I got arrested, right? And how people talked about me.
Yeah.
So that was my driving force. Like, I'm going to show them.
Yes.
You know, and even like a couple of weeks ago when I was back in New York at our project family reunion, and people grew up with, you know, came and looked down at me and was, oh, Dana, I'm so proud of you, this, that, and the other. And I was like, oh, yeah. I hold grudges a little bit.
I know you do.
Yeah.
Then he'd be like, thank
I'm
you.
like, yeah. You know, and stuff, but you know, not to flaunt nobody's face, but it's just that how people really thought I was going to grow up to be nothing because, you know, I got left back in the third grade, dropped out in ninth. Yeah, they thought, you know what I'm saying? But God had different plans, I always say. You know, and never look down on someone because you never know. And that was my drive. You know, I wanted more for my children. I wanted more, you know, for myself.
Yes. The one thing that you said that I think we breeze by, but I think everyone that is successful says, and we say it in all different ways, but you said believe. And I was talking about believe, and I talk about it in the book, but believe is something that you have to consistently do. You can't stop. And one of the ways that I explain believing is you basically have to, it's a personal commitment to surrender to a new thought. It's like, so your mind says, you're not going to be successful, but your belief is I'm going to be. So you have to commit to not taking on this thought and commit to the thought that I'm going to be successful. It's a surrendering to a new thought. You can't think that you're not successful and you're going to be successful and be successful. It's like it takes you back and forth. And like the scripture says, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And one of the biggest things or the biggest ways to be successful is like creating a strong foundation, no matter what anybody says. Like just continually building, you know? So it's that you said it, it's like you had to believe. You had to throw away the thought of I was a single mom, I was a dropout. All of that had to go to the trash and you had to go, no, I'm going to commit to success.
And how bad do you really want it?
How bad?
You know, because people say that they want it, but you have to really want it really bad, because when things not going right, you have to still be like, you know what, I know this got to work by any means necessary. Like, and you know, and I think that's the attitude I have with everything, by any means necessary. I have to make this happen. Like, it's no going back. Right? Is no going back to the post office. Is no going back getting a job. It's like, this have to work. What do I need to do to make sure this works?
What do you think gets in the way of people committing to change?
Sometimes they surrounded, right? Because sometimes they will have somebody around them telling them that it's not going to work. that this is not for them. You don't have that, what it takes. And sometimes people get tired and people's not willing to sacrifice, because you have to sacrifice something to get to the next level, whether it's television,
Yes.
sleep,
Yes.
hanging out, budgeting,
Yeah.
so you have to cut back. And a lot of times people don't want to cut back. Just think about when you dieting.
Yeah.
You don't, I love sweets.
my
It's so
gosh.
hard. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely to cut
Yes.
back. Sometimes it's hard. So
Yeah.
you have to really make the sacrifice.
Yeah. I just want to sidebar this. I think in our culture, we don't promote sacrificing.
Right.
We think sacrificing is like, mom got to work hard and she put food on the table. But I look at the fact that Blacks, we have a holiday every month out of the year, right? But we celebrate every single thing. We don't even sacrifice holidays. There's been
Right.
times where I was like, there is no Christmas. And not because I don't have money. I'm taking that money and I'm putting it somewhere else. Like, we make our children believe that we have to celebrate Christmas. I'm going to work these extra hours. But we don't do that for their future.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like, even, let me get back on Atlanta. I love Atlanta, by the way. It's a culture shock sometimes. But no, not Atlanta. It was Houston. I was in Houston. I'm like, how do we have day parties?
Oh.
How do we have day parties and women talking about, oh, this is where you find a Black man? I don't want a Black man partying in the middle of the day. What kind of man are you getting that is going to be partying in the middle of the day?
Yeah.
That's not cool. Like,
Yeah.
we've only had 100 years of ownership. We have so much catching up. We don't even have time to be like, oh, let's party. Now, yes, have fun. There's time to celebrate. But I feel like our culture doesn't take getting ahead serious enough. And we think that working hard means giving up our time to somebody else. So people are like, well, I did my 8 hours and that's it. But you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
And you don't really have to be an entrepreneur. You can literally, like you were working and you started in 2008. I know Dana, all her stories.
Right.
2008, you bought your house in Atlanta.
2006.
2006, and rented it out for 13 years, right? So you were getting passive income while you were working at the post office.
Yes.
So you don't have to embrace this whole entrepreneur, let me start at the bottom. Start by leveraging your paper. Get pretty on paper. But start by leveraging your paperwork, your W-2s, your actual work history, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I would say 70% of Black people have bad credit.
Oh.
And it's probably more than
that.
I say, just being that 70%, because it's stuff that we wasn't taught. Yeah. And we think credit is for just to buy a car and a house. So if you don't plan on buying a car and a house, you don't need credit, right? But people don't understand just how expensive having bad credit is, because if you decide to get that car, interest rate is high. Even if you get an apartment, it determines where you live at, and now you have to put a deposit down on utilities. It's more on life insurance, health insurance, just everything, right? And, I always think about the time when my mom passed in 2012, and I was making $300,000 a year between my tax business, real estate, and the post office, and had good credit. Credit cards was maxed out, right? My mom passed. I'm in Atlanta. She's in New York. I didn't even have enough money to get to New York. After I cried, I'm like, how am I getting to New York? Yeah. But thank God my husband sold a vehicle that day.
Okay.
So we used that money to get my family to New York. When I came back, I said, you know what, Dana? This have to stop.
Yeah.
Come up with a plan, pay down these credit cards in 2 years and get debt free. And I have never been in debt again since then.
Well, good debt.
Yeah,
structured
good.
Debt.
Yes. Now I have structured debt, but I don't even call it debt because I'm using debt to create cash flow.
Yes. But we need to educate people about structured debt.
Yes.
We don't talk about what that is. Dana taught me that.
Right.
But, going from consumer debt to structured debt. And I mean, it can go as far into I'll just say this, our community, we just got a lot to learn. But I hear a lot of people like, oh, this person, they live in an apartment and they not. But I have clients. I have a Jewish client right now that has an apartment in Beverly Hills. He lives in Beverly Hills, but he rents an apartment. But he owns all the commercial real estate in Mid Wilshire.
But that's, you know what? But that's fine.
But listen,
Yeah,
he has an
an
apartment
apartment.
in
Yeah,
Beverly
Beverly
Hills.
Hills.
So he's still, his insurance is probably cheap. He probably lives in a, place where the kids can go to public school.
Cool.
So our community, even buying a primary
Mhm.
home, sometimes is not the
It's
move.
no, it's, I would say, coming from the projects and
Yes.
moving to Georgia, of course we wanted this house, this 5-bedroom house. And when I came down, it was just myself, my husband, and my son.
Yeah.
Why we need a 5-bedroom house? Even though the girls moved down after a
Yeah.
while, but they grown up, moved out.
Yeah.
But you don't realize when you have this big house, property taxes is more.
Yes.
You can't, all of us, 3 of us is in one room. We got to cool off the whole house. The cable bill is more. Everything is more to
Yes.
warm the house.
Yes.
So really having a big house
Yes.
is really a liability, not really an asset.
Yes.
And once Trump changed the tax laws, you don't even write it off on your taxes,
Yes.
the interest and stuff. If you, depending on your income,
Yeah.
and that's a whole nother
Yeah.
story.
Right.
Right. But it's not really a big asset.
But we pushing that.
But we,
now,
yeah. So wait a minute. So I say that to
Yeah.
say that, once I got in the house, it's a little overrated. So
Yes.
now I really want an apartment with a nice balcony and a doorman and a rooftop pool. So I'm fine with renting, right? But I have so many assets that's going to pay for that,
Exactly.
right? But that's the mindset, right?
Yes.
So our community were quick to say, oh, they live in an apartment. They don't even own a house, but they have a business. Right. So, but it's okay.
It is. And I
It's
think we just
okay.
need to, we really need to. And I talk about this in regard, like we talk about planning and preparing. Everyone's lifestyle, everybody's life is completely
Mhm.
different, right? And so you have to plan out the life for how it works for
Mhm.
you. Like
Mhm.
you have just one kid in the house,
Mhm.
right? So that life has changed from you having, 2 daughters and
Mhm.
so planning out your life of how it works for you
Mhm.
is the start to building wealth.
Mhm.
But I think that because we're so behind our definition, how we look at it and how we think it should look, it automatically puts unnecessary pressure on people when all you have to do is sit down and create a strategy and a plan for your life,
Correct.
for yourself.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason for a single woman to have a big old
Mhm.
mansion,
Yeah.
and like, man.
Yeah. I had to, just the other day I had talked to one of the mentees, and she was saying that she felt funny buying, actually 2 of them, they feel funny buying investment property. They live in an apartment and they single. I said, why? I said, why would you go get a big house? Unless that's
Yeah.
something you just desire.
That's-
You never
that's what you
had it
want.
and
Right.
it's on your bucket list.
Right.
Well, I want to buy a house. I said, but if not, I said, don't worry about what people
Yeah.
think. I said, because the same person that's judging you, you'd be surprised it's not even on the same level as you. I said, so we definitely have to stop worrying about what people think.
Yes. And I think that's those are the steps that we need to take in building wealth, is becoming secure in who you are, knowing who you are, right? Knowing where you came from and where you're trying to go, and creating a plan that works for you, not what everybody else is doing. Everybody's doing Airbnb, everybody's doing it. That may not be what works for you.
Correct.
We didn't get to any other questions. How much time do we have? Nothing?
No, so you still have 11 minutes.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that you touch on, you did just do it.
This is how we do. This is what we do on the phone.
Right.
No, but it is really good. So I want you to I didn't want to jump in because y'all was flowing, but you just brought back around the plan and the
Yes.
prepare, so that's
Yeah.
good. I think it's the last question.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to make sure you get to that one.
Yeah, about the bank.
About the reserves, but then also maybe asking, like, what are some of the ways that you continue to plan and prepare. So
well, okay, yeah. So we'll talk about yes. So I want to talk about because Dana and I are right now both putting our kids together to get their credit together. So we can talk about that.
Yep, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Because planning for your kids, women are going to be watching this.
Yes.
So what are some of the things?
Yeah.
And I love how you mentioned the Christmas. Like, what are some of the things we're doing to prepare for the future and not just like for December 25th?
Right. Okay.
So you got about 2 questions.
Okay.
And then
can I do 3 questions?
Sure. Okay. 3 questions, and then your wrap up summarizing some of the things to plan and prepare. So you talked about utilizing retirement, having passive income, even if
Yeah.
you're working on the job. So just recapping some of those things.
Okay. So the question that, because I talk about the art of refinement, and one of the parts of art of refinement is doing everything with excellence. So how do you believe you command excellence in your space?
Um, excellent. So taking action, honestly, right? So I would say taking action is how you get to the point of excellence, right? And really writing stuff down, right?
Yes.
Since I was little, right? I always wrote stuff down.
Yes.
So I always write stuff down, what I need to do, what bills need to be paid, what plans, I have,
Yes.
so what's my 3 months plan, what my 6 month plan, what my 2 year plan, right?
Yeah.
So really I'm working towards my 2 year plan now because I'm on the downhill to retirement.
Yes.
Right. So really just planning and sticking
Yes.
to it.
Yes.
Right. Because you can write something down, but are you going to execute?
Yes.
Right. So it's important to execute on the
Yes.
information.
Yes. I love that. And Dana says it all the time on the calls. I need y'all to take action.
Right.
So by putting your children in position, do you see it as being profitable? And one of our I call him a virtual mentor, but beyond, he always says that having kids in your business is like a cheat code, right? Do you believe that? I know you believe it,
Yeah.
but
So I
do you think
believe
it's
it
profitable?
because definitely because no one's going to care for you like your children.
Yes.
So
it's
I
true.
know that my children have my best
Yes,
interest because
yes.
my best interests benefit them
Yes,
also.
yes.
Right? So I think it's really beneficial. And as a mother, we want the best for our kids.
Yes.
We want our kids to have more than we had growing up.
Yeah.
Right? So, my son, 19 years old, and I knew he wasn't going to college, right? And
Which
honestly,
is okay.
yes, I had to call in a favor to get him out
Yeah.
of high school.
Yeah.
He was failing, and the principal was my neighbor best friend.
Yeah.
So I was like, he should give me Monique's number.
Right.
So I said, look, Monique, I
Yes.
said, AJ got these 30s, and the
We gotta
teacher's
get this.
not
Yeah.
helping. This was during the pandemic, and the kids was home and stuff. So she was like, okay, what's his teacher's name or whatever?
Yeah.
She was like, each one will call you.
I had
Each
to do
one,
the same thing.
yeah, each one gave him a report to do. He did it, and he
Yeah.
passed,
Yeah.
right? And I wasn't worried about him going to college
Yeah.
because I knew I had businesses for him, right? So even while he was in school, all right, let's learn how to do these taxes.
Yes.
We did a rehab, so he was the project manager. So now we getting into development.
Yes.
So he's going to be on that because I can see him as a billionaire,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because he's 19 and
Yes.
he's going to have all the skills,
Yes.
credit,
Mm-hmm.
money, and the knowledge,
Yes.
right? So
kids are profitable.
So kids is definitely profitable.
And I had called Dana. It was probably like 6 months ago. So we've been my son is 18. So I'm on following the same path. Like every month, my son and I are on the calls talking about credit, what's going on with it. We just applied for this one. This is the next plan, and I'm always calling Dana. Like, what we doing? But I do see kids as a cheat code because whatever we weren't able to get at their age, we can pass it down to them early, and it just becomes who they are. And I also feel like as I'm preparing my son, I'm already leading the way for my grandchildren.
Correct. Yeah.
I'm already preparing children I haven't met yet, because my son is going to know what it is to be financially free. And I had told him this the other day. I flew up to Seattle, and I told him, I said, you can decide now that you will never be a broke adult.
Yes.
And I said, that's the goal.
Yeah.
The goal is for you to never have to struggle as an adult. We have that struggle because we didn't have the knowledge.
And the key word? Decide.
Decide.
Everything is a decision.
Yes.
Everything is a decision.
Yes.
And, and I really believe that. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm successful is because, when I was 18 years old, I made a decision.
Yes.
That I would never experience being that broke, only having enough money for one box of Pampers. So everything starts with a decision.
Yes.
You can decide when you get off of work, if you work in a job, if you're going to sit on the couch because you're tired, or you're going to make a decision to educate yourself.
Exactly.
Right? So everything starts with a decision, if we believe it or not. If we, are successful or not. It's a decision that we made somewhere along the line. Either I'm going to be successful or I'm just going to be okay with my current situation.
And right now, you have everything accessible to you to find out what success is. It's not even like it's hidden anymore.
Yeah. And and I always say everybody's level of success is different.
It's different.
Because like I don't desire to be a billionaire. I remember I was talking to this lady one time. We was in Dubai and I was like, I don't desire that. Now I desire that for my children.
Yes.
I said, but I don't desire that for myself. I said, because I'm a little older. So I think about what makes me comfortable.
Yes.
Right. So if I have $30,000 coming in a month, I can live my best life.
Right.
I can travel wherever I want to every month. I can live my best life.
Yes.
So there's some people where if you make $10,000 a month, right, you can still live your best life. And $10,000 a month is only $120,000 a year.
Right.
So you don't have to be a millionaire to live your best life. So everybody's level is different.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's so true. But imagine that we have 18-year-olds that are doing $10,000.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Like what is there? How many levels are they going to reach?
Yeah. That's why I said like it's easy for our children to become billionaires with all the information. As long as they make the decision, if that's what they want. Right? Because that's what I want for AJ. He might not want that.
AJ.
Yeah.
We not playing with you.
Yeah. He might not want that, but he have the opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? So he can never say, well, I wasn't equipped with the information to make this happen.
Right.
And the same, for my girls and my grandsons. So they can say that they are equipped. And, honestly, for anyone in 2023 living with bad credit and don't know how to make money is shame. It's a choice, a decision, and shame on them.
Yeah.
Because, we don't have to live with bad credit because having good credit, being pretty on paper, right, open up so many doors for you, man or woman.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Being pretty on paper. It open up so many doors, and a lot of times we want $1 million in funding. But really, if you get $20,000, that will make your life. You get $5,000. It probably can change your life.
You can buy Dana's mentorship. Show you how to get.
So we gotta take a step back, right? See what is it that we want to do?
Yes.
Right? And what's the plan we're gonna put in place to make it happen?
The plan.
And believe it or not, it's possible.
Yes.
So for people who are not sure how they can start planning, I think that's a good place to ask some suggestions.
What is something you think? What kind of reserves or bank do you think a person should have for their future? Okay. So say it again. I'm sorry.
So, and
for the people,
about the importance of planning for somebody who doesn't know where to start. What are some ways
Okay.
to start with?
Okay, so for the people that have no idea like how to plan or where to start, where do you think is the first place to get started?
So first think about what is it that you want to do, right? Does it require money, right? Do you have any money? Look at your credit. Where's your credit? Because, to be honest, it's hard to save money, right? But if you fix your credit, you can get access to money, right? So decide exactly, what is, how's your credit? If you need to fix that and start working on that.
Yeah.
So I always tell people to start with their credit. Yeah. Because even if you have cash, you're going to run out of money. Unless you got a money tree, you're going to run out of money. There's no ifs and buts about it. But when you have good credit, you would never run out of money.
Yes. Especially when you know how to do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty on paper segment, beauty tip.
Okay.
And you have 0 questions left.
Okay. Sorry, that's the boss of it.
So for the pretty on paper segment.
So for the pretty on, do I say that for the pretty on paper segment?
What did you do yesterday?
I just said that so for every woman, I want to know what their but I can say that. Okay.
And then from here on out we'll
do it like that. Okay. Yeah. So for the pretty on paper segment, I ask every guest, all the pretty ladies, what is one of their beauty tips? Like, what is that one thing that you like consistently do that helps you look beautiful, whether it's natural or not? What is one of your beauty tips?
8 hours of sleep a night.
Okay. That's good.
8 hours of sleep a night and going to get a massage every week. Because you have to relax. You have to relax.
Okay.
And you need your rest, right? So that you be able to function at full capacity.
Why your skin so tight though? What you put on your skin?
But they said black don't crack,
It don't.
baby.
It don't. Oh, it don't.
So in the surprise, I used nothing. Actually, last month I had my first facial ever.
Really?
And I said I would never go back again.
Your skin looks good.
Yeah, but just, water. And I try not to stress.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times stress would do. So I try not to stress because certain things we can't change.
Yeah.
It is what it is. What I'm going to do about it.
Yeah.
Come up with a plan.
Yeah.
Right? What you going to do about what just happened and move forward.
Yeah. So no stress,
No
rest,
stress.
and a
No
massage.
Yes. No stress, rest, and a massage.
So I really enjoyed this conversation. Let everybody know where they can find you.
On Instagram, I am Dana Christian. On Facebook, just Dana Christian.
So the principle that we covered today was plan and prepare. And one of the ways to plan and prepare, as Dana was speaking about, is writing it down and executing. Do not despise humble beginnings. Humble beginnings are perfectly fine, especially when you know where you're going. So planning out your future, planning a future that is specifically for you, not what someone else is doing, not how they're doing it, but really focusing on the life that you want and focusing on where you are and how you can leverage what you have right now.
It's Aneesa Lachey. They was doubting by my calling, now they peeping the way.